people will think, oh, chains, it's only for squats, it's only for this. But it's like you can really use that loading pattern of that accommodating resistance to get a shit ton more out of, and that's, you're just talking about the strength curve, right? Like
Yes.
you're really just talking about loading the muscle in a position as it gets more advantageous for that muscle, you're adding more weight to that bar or adding more resistance to that, right? So if you got to think like, okay, we're going to do JM presses with chains, it's like, of course you're going to be stronger right at the last quarter inch, 2 inches, whatever it is for that lockout. There's no reason to beat the shit out of your elbow in that less advantageous position, right?
Yes. And another thing that I want to put out there is when I picked up this really bad habit when I went through my initial bodybuilding phase in college, which I'll just call it short stroking my bench, because most of those bench training sessions were just, you'd use 315 or 365 or 405, then you just rep out with whatever that is.
Yep.
And so it wasn't about form, technique, it was how many reps can you get. So I ended up short stroking pretty much all the reps except for the last one. And then I would justify it like, well, it's constant tension on the pecs and, you know, this stupid shit that you say when you're younger training, right? And but I kind of believed it, and at the time I probably would have told you, no, I'm doing this on purpose because that's what I believe. And to me, if I could always lock out the last couple, then I could have locked them all out, right? Because it's the last couple. You know, if I'm really trying to do this to cheat to get more reps, then I shouldn't be able to lock out the last, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when I came to Westside, that became this big clusterfuck of an issue with dynamic work because I was fast. And now the way to get faster was short stretch, just boom, you know, 3 second or 3 reps are done in like a quarter of a second.
Yeah.
It's like, holy shit, you know, that's, then it's like, well, you understand Louis and Kenny Patterson, and they were probably the 2 big, Chuck, who were the 3 biggest ones. So that's great, looks fast and presses the shit out of everybody, but you know, you ain't gonna lock shit out of the meat. And I just kept doing it, and couldn't lock shit out of the meat.
Yep.
And so I had to stop. And then, but during that time is also when my bicepial tendonitis, it went away. A lot of that went away because I had pec surgery and there was no real training. I had 6 months off of real hard training.
Right.
So the bicepial injury, that lowering type, people know what I'm talking about. It's just a nightmare.
It's awful.
You know, and you try your best to just mind fuck your way through it, but it's just, it's tough.
You can't run away from it.
It's just, yes, it just sucks.
Yeah.
And so that was always this reoccurring problem that I would just fix by putting the bench after my squat, or I'd move days. Then once I came to Westside, that went away, but I didn't understand that the reason why it went away is because my bench went away for 5 months. And then I started going back to that short stroking, and all this started to come back again. And I didn't get it because at that time I'm like, I don't understand why this is coming back now, because we already addressed moving my hands out on the squat. Now I got a squat bar. All the other culprits for this were removed. So why the fuck is this still here? And then once I started to purposely lock out every rep with intent, not hyperextending, but with intent, especially the heavier ones, and on the heavier ones holding it too. So taking out and holding it 1, 2, and it was more at that time. It was more about just the tension on the tricep. How long was that tension going to be on there for that single? So say there's 1, 2, 3, then you start to go down. It could be 8, 9 seconds for that, which I was thinking in regards to time. But what I didn't realize by doing that and then taking going from the short stroke into the full rep, for a while it had to be 3 singles, and that sucked because you hold it, you're in the mindset of go 1, 2, 3, go 1, 2, 3, and it's like, it was terrible.
Yeah.
But it was the only way to be able to get it to fix. And plus some of the guys I was training with at the time were dickheads. So if I short stroked it, then it didn't count. You know, so some sets I'd end up doing 6 because the first 2 were that short stroke and crap. Once that came back into how it was supposed to be, and I would say it took a while, it probably took 6 months. All that bicep stuff went away and it never came back again. So I think with not obviously everybody's different. I think with a lot of the people, if you look at their benches, if they have that problem, you're going to find on the majority of their repetitions, not their heavy ones, but all their repetitions, they're short stroke and they're shit. And that's some of the problem.
No, I agree with that. Even just personally, I have in strongman, it was always just get it overhead, hold it, stabilize it, whatever. Now with benching, especially with a bench shirt, I need to fully extend that elbow and I need to be able to maintain that position. I am so used to everything is like my right arm doesn't quite extend it as far because my biceps are so tight. My forearms are so tight, right? Same thing on the left. And I have to dig into that shit before I bench to be able to get into a better position. But I know what you're talking about because that's how I was benching for years. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like elbows started to get funky, especially with strongman. Biceps would start to get funky. And it wasn't until I really remembered how I needed to prep to actually train what I needed to train and be able to get in those positions where I was like, ah, shit, those are connected.
Yeah. And I'm all for supportive gear like elbow sleeves and crap like that. What I will say is it's okay to use on the big compound movement as long as it's just keeping the joint warm. It's a light elbow sleeve. Right. It's not like wearing 3 sizes too small. But then after your bench, if you can get them the fuck off, get them off.
Yeah.
You know, even if you can get away from having to use them on like dynamic bench, don't use them. They just use it on like the heavier one. Try to not rely on them for one thing. And I do for a lot of things I do, but I peel them. I know when I need to wear them, when I don't need to wear them. Then what I wear, they're pieces of shit. I mean, they're not pieces of shit. They're a single ply.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to it. I
Right.
can put them on my knee. And the other place I will wear them is on my yoke bar squats too, because I grab so hard that places a lot of tension, and just wearing those helps there. But the knee sleeves being the same way, you know, it's for even with that, what I like to see people do if it's conjugate, right? Because there is specificity of knee sleeves too. If you're competing, is to keep them folded down until you get to your heavy sets, then fold them up, and then fold it back down. And so you're really only using them for a couple sets. And go that way, but that helps too. But it can't be your solution is what I'm trying to say.
No, for sure. And I think even for years of competing in strongman, I wouldn't press overhead without like the full regalia of like elbows and wrists and that. And I found it when we were doing dynamic work for this powerlifting meet is I wasn't wearing my elbow sleeves for dynamic work. And I found that if I benched like an asshole, it hurt way more on dynamic days than it did on the max effort days.
It's a good gauge by not wearing it, because I like what you just said with that, because it'll feel a little weird. Then if I'm understanding what you're saying, your first course of action was fix what's screwing up. Yeah. Not grab the sleeves.
Correct.
Which that's what I really like, because that's what, I mean, you don't want to become dependent on this gear shit, you know?
Absolutely. And I found that it would take me, I mean, I don't know how many, we would always do like between 8 to 12, sometimes 15, whatever. And it always took me like 3 or 4 to find, it's like, okay, if I get into the proper position that I should be in, nothing hurts.
Yes.
But if I'm being a lazy piece of shit and I'm just like flopping around on the bench, not taking it seriously, I'm like, ugh, like shit starts to hurt.
Yes.
So it was kind of that. I used the dynamic days as that kind of a test to see like, okay, where is everything at in terms of how everything feels.
That's a monstrous takeaway for anybody that's listening. It really is. I mean, that's a huge thing, because most people aren't going to do that.